Earlier this year I tested out the first version Paralenz underwater action camera and made a little review about it. I'll link it up here, so if you haven't seen it, feel free to go and check that out. Then a couple weeks ago the second version, the Paralenz Underwater Camera Plus, came out, and I sent an email to the marketing team, to Jacob of Paralenz, asking them whether they can send me one of their new Paralenz Plus cameras for testing. And as nice as the guys at Paralenz are, that's exactly what they did, and a couple days later I had this in my mailbox, the new Paralenz Action Camera Plus. So in this short video I will talk about the new features and improvements of the Paralenz Underwater Camera Plus compared to the first version, and my first impressions about this camera. Coming up. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Matthias and I am an underwater cameraman and filmmaker based here in Zurich, Switzerland. If you're interested in underwater cinematography, underwater video or travel videos in general, make sure that you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, so you don't miss out on any future content. First of all, I want to say thank you to the guys at Paralenz for actually sending me a new version of the Paralenz Underwater Camera Plus. And I also want to say that this video is not sponsored by the guys at Paralenz, but they did send me a camera for free. Nevertheless, the opinions that I'm going to share with you in this video are my own opinions based on my experiences with the new Paralenz Plus camera. So the reason why Paralenz came out with a second version of their Paralenz Underwater Action Camera is simply because they've gotten a lot of feedback from the community using their first version Paralenz cameras and giving them a lot of input and a lot of feedback on what worked and what didn't work with the camera. Now in the second version they weren't trying to make a completely new camera, but they were trying to make up for those flaws that the first version had and trying to satisfy the users of the Paralenz cameras based on the feedback that they've been getting from the first version. Now let's have a quick look first of all at what has changed between the first and the second model based on what is written on Paralenz website. First of all the exterior of the Paralenz camera is made from aerospace grade aluminium now. So even the cap that was on the prior version that was made from plastic is now made from the same aluminium as the main body of the camera, and the back window is not plastic anymore but is scratch proof glass this time. Because the entire body is made of aerospace grade aluminium now, the depth rating has also been improved from previously 200 meters to now 250 meters, which, let's be honest, for most of us is not really going to make a big difference. They've also applied a more corrosion resistant coating on the outside of the camera, which is nice and handy if you're primarily using the camera in salty water. The unique selector ring on the camera that is used to switch between the different modes of the camera has also been redesigned and simplified, and there's no more screws on that selector reel. All the screws, in addition, they are now made out entirely of titanium. Last but not least, of course, the price has also changed. The first model was priced at $599 US. Now the new model, the Paralenz Plus, is priced at $100 US more at $699. These are just the facts that you can find on the Paralenz website. I was really curious to find out what exactly has changed inside the camera as well. So I called up Jacob, the marketing manager from Paralenz, and had a quick Skype chat with him where he explained a few of the things that have improved and changed from the first to the second version of their Paralenz action camera. First of all, Jacob mentioned that the DCC, the very unique color correction, which is based on what depth the camera is at, that they've been working on that. Now, the way he explained to me how this color correction works is that they're using an algorithm to calculate the amount of colors that need to be shown at any different depth, and also depending on whether you're diving in blue or in green water. Now, they have gotten a lot of feedback from users using the first version of the Paralenz camera, saying that there is a red tint in some of the images, that the color is not correct at certain depth. And what they've done, they've taken all that data, they've incorporated that into their algorithms. They've taken out about 20% of the red, and they've added about 10% of blue color into their DCC algorithm, and according to what Jacob told me, that should have made a big difference in the accuracy of the DCC. The second big thing that they've been working on was their app, and as I've mentioned in my previous video, I wasn't really happy with the app whatsoever, because for me it was not usable. The connection would always break off in between the camera and the app, and it simply wasn't possible for me to download any of the footage that I had taken with the Paralenz camera onto my smartphone so I could use it and distribute it on social media right away. Now, the first version of the Paralenz camera, you were only able to use certain SanDisk SD cards for the Paralenz camera, and according to Jacob, that hasn't really changed. So it's still the same thing there. You can only use SanDisk Extreme or SanDisk Pro SD cards with a speed class of U3 or V30. And Paralenz recommends to use SD cards of no less than 32 gigs. So, looking at the new version of the Paralenz action camera, you cannot really tell a big difference from the appearance from the outside of the camera. It still feels very well made, it sits very nicely in your hand. Pretty much all the features are the same here. You've got your back part that you can unscrew, which gives you access to the SD card slot and also to the charging port, or the port that you can plug in the cable to get the footage of the camera that way. Unfortunately, I did not have the chance in the last week or so to get in the water and test the new version of the Paralenz underwater camera in its element in the water, but what I did do is take it out for a little walk and just try the camera on land and see how it works. One of the things that I was really interested in was to see whether the footage, which I found not particularly sharp on the previous version, I wanted to see whether or not that has changed. So I took the camera out just here in the neighborhood for a little walk, and I took a few shots with the camera in 4K and also in 1080p to see how the white balance works on land, and also to see how the sharpness of the image is. Now, having looked at the footage back on my computer, I don't really think that I'm seeing a very big difference there in terms of sharpness of the footage. I still think that the footage is not extremely sharp. It might have gotten a little bit better than on the previous version, but it's not tech sharp as I would have expected it. And here it doesn't make any difference whether it has been recorded in 4K or in 1080p. What I did notice though is that the camera has issues with overexposure. Now there's this shot here where I've taken a shot at 1080p and I've taken the same shot at 4K, and you can clearly see that the 1080p footage is very much blown out. The highlights are very much blown out. It's basically not usable. Whereas the 4K clip is exposed quite okay. There's still a bit of exposure issues. There's still some parts of the image that are blown out, but it's no way as dramatic as on the 1080p clip. Next I wanted to test two different DCC modes, the blue and the green one, and because I've got a lake right next to my house, I just walked down there and I put the camera just into the lake, holding it in my hands just below the surface, and I just took a clip in 4K using the green DCC and one with the blue DCC applied. And you can clearly see the difference. Obviously, because this was just on the surface, this is a tiny little lake that doesn't really have great visibility, so you can't really see much on these pictures, but it gives you an idea on how green or blue, the choice that you make there, is gonna impact the image that you're getting at the end. One thing that Jacob told me when I was on the phone with him was also that it's crucial that you calibrate your pressure gauge that is inside the Paralenz action camera, and that is responsible for determining what depth you are during your dive, so that the colors can turn out right using the DCC inside your camera. Now, after having taken those test shots, I wanted to see how the app is functioning and what kind of improvements they have incorporated into the app. Now, starting the app and connecting it to the camera worked quite okay. It took a few attempts for me to connect the camera, but it worked much quicker than my previous experiences with the first series, the first version of the Paralenz camera. I did encounter some problems still. I mean, the app was a lot more stable than the previous version of it. It didn't disconnect as many times as the previous one. It did crash a couple times on me, but by far not as many times as it would have done previously. Now, I'm still having the problem that I can't really watch my clips on my phone through the app while connected to the camera. It seems like the connection between the camera and the app is just too weak, especially when we're looking at 4K footage. It just can't push through all that data to send it to your phone and to display it in real time. So it's a real pain to look at footage that you've taken on your camera on your phone in between dives, for example. There's also an issue when you're downloading the footage from your camera onto the app or into the app. I've tried to do this. It took an incredible long time to download the footage, and it was only like 6 clips that I wanted to download, and it took a really long time to download those clips, and it didn't really download all of them. It downloaded maybe half of the clips, and the other ones I had to go back and I had to select them individually, which worked a lot better, and then download those clips individually rather than selecting all of them at once and trying to download the whole bunch of clips. This can be quite annoying because every time it crashes on you, you have to close the app, reopen the app again, reconnect to the camera, and then you can continue downloading the footage that has not been downloaded on your previous try. So I think there is still some work that needs to be done and needs to be put into improving that app so that it's really user-friendly. So to sum up my first impressions of the Paralenz underwater camera Plus, their new version is that they've put a lot of thought into improving the camera. They've made some adjustments, they've made some improvements on the camera, whether it be hardware wise or also on the software side with the DCC and the improved stability of the app. At this stage I cannot really say that the camera has improved dramatically, but keep in mind that I haven't really used it where it's meant to be used. I haven't really had the chance to go and take it on a dive yet. I'm hoping to find some time to do that within the next week or so, and then I'll certainly be able to give you more information on whether or not the DCC has improved, whether or not the sharpness underwater has improved, and whether or not the whole user experience of the camera has improved compared to the first version of the Paralenz camera. I still think that this camera has a lot of potential. I'm very excited to jump into the lake as soon as I can and give this camera a proper test underwater to see what has changed and how it has improved. In the meantime, if you do want to get some more information on the Paralenz cameras, you can obviously check out their website, but a very good resource for some information on those cameras is also their Facebook group. Paralenz has a Facebook group created, and in there you will find tons of videos posted from other users. You will find tons of reviews and opinions on whether or not the Paralenz camera is a useful tool for underwater videography, and feel free to check that out. I'll leave the link down in the description. And this wraps up this little video about my first impressions on the Paralenz underwater camera plus the new version of the Paralenz camera. Thank you very much for watching, and if this video was helpful to you, if you got something out of it, please don't forget to hit that like button and also to subscribe to my channel if you want to see the coming reviews on how the camera actually works underwater and how it performs in the element that it's meant to be in. So, thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.